Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. Good to see you all. Tonight we're continuing our study of Bhagavad Gita as it is by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Tonight we'll continue with chapter 10, which is entitled The Opulences of the Absolute, and we'll continue from verse number 19. And if you have any questions or comments as we go, then please ask. So text number 19. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Yes, I will tell you of my splendorous manifestations, but only of those which are prominent, O Arjuna, for my opulence is limited. For my opulence is limitless." So Krishna is about to speak of his opulences because it is a way of us remembering him. The basic principle which Rupa Goswami gives us, which overrides everything we do in Krishna consciousness, is always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. Right? So that's the overriding principle. So to help us or assist us in remembering him, Krishna is about to speak of a number of opulences, Aishwarya, or different ways that we can remember him in this world. When we see so many things, even as devotees, because we're trained and we're Krishna conscious to a degree. When we see natural phenomena, quite often we remember Krishna. You see a beautiful sunrise or sunset. Devotees. Krishna's in the world. And this reminds us
Prabhu,
of a wonderful creator.
excuse me, Prabhu, you're dropping out.
Spiritual world. These opulences. Because he wants to stimulate ways that we can remember him. So Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, it is not possible to comprehend the greatness of Krishna and his opulences. The senses of the individual soul are limited and do not permit him to understand the totality of Krishna's affairs. Still, the devotees try to understand Krishna, but not on the principle that they will be able to understand Krishna fully. Rather, the topics of Krishna are so relishable that they appear as nectar. Thus, the devotees enjoy them. Krishna knows that living entities do not understand the extent of his opulences. He therefore agrees to state only his principal energies. So, we cannot fully perceive Krishna because Krishna's opulences are unlimited. I remember my spiritual master saying many years ago that Krishna is achintya. We know achintya, Veda tattva. Achintya means inconceivable. So when you're dealing with Krishna, there is a point that we get to where we just fold our hands and we bow our heads and we say, "You are what you are," because you're beyond our ability to comprehend. When you look at the opulence of Krishna's creation, like we look out, in the Quran, it says, if you do not believe in Allah, if you do not believe in God, then open your eyes. Now, how can you say there's no God? Just look around you. If there's a creation, there must be a creator. That's logical. Most of us can feel that. Theistic people can feel that. Atheistic people deny that. They won't admit that there's a creator because people are envious of God. But when you look at Krishna's creation, even just look at the night sky. I think it's a bit cloudy tonight, maybe, but you see on the clear nights, it's like, inconceivable. You can actually see the Milky Way just clearly moving above us. And, inconceivable how wondrous and how powerful the creation is, and Krishna is the creator. So, as Prabhupada says, the devotees enjoy the opulences of Krishna. And Krishna knows that the living entities do not understand the extent of his opulences. He therefore agrees to state only his principal energies. So Krishna is going to give us examples. That's the point of this part of the Bhagavad Gita. The opulence of the Absolute. Krishna is just going to show us, ways that we can remember him, because the goal is to always remember him. So then Krishna will say, well, look, like this, like this, like this, like this, you will see me, you will perceive me in these different ways. Text number 20. I am the Supersoul, O Arjuna, seated in the hearts of all living entities. I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings. So Krishna is describing, I am the Supersoul. That's the most magnificent of all of his opulences, in a sense, because Krishna is Paramatma. Paramatma means he is the supreme entity who expands himself into every atom of the creation. That explains how Krishna is Sarvagya. Sarvagya means one who is all-knowing. How does Krishna know everything? How does he know everything? Because he's in every atom. That's how you know everything. If you're not in every atom, you don't know everything. We don't even know what's going on in the next room. We don't know. So we're limited. We're finite. Krishna, by definition, is infinite, which means he understands everything. You can only understand everything if you're in every atom of the creation. That's the Supersoul. That's the Paramatma. Right? That is Krishna's inconceivable power. How can you be everywhere but still remain localized in Goloka Vrindavan? Right? You have your own abode, and at the same time you're permeating everything. Right? He does that by his expansions, and then he goes in every atom as Paramatma, as himself, his expansion. And the Acharyas point out that Krishna is simultaneously Sarvagya and Mokdatta. Mokdatta means he forgets that he is supreme. In that original form of Krishna, as we see, Krishna's original form. In the original form, he forgets that he knows everything. But even though he's forgetting he knows everything, he knows everything. That's inconceivable. How can you know everything and yet forget that you know everything? That's Krishna's inconceivable nature. So Prabhupada says in the purport, Krishna first informs us that he is the soul of the entire cosmic manifestation. By dint of his primary expansion, the total material energy is not the cause of the creation. Mahavishnu is the soul. When Mahavishnu enters into the manifested universes, he again manifests himself as the Supersoul in each and every entity. The material manifestation cannot develop unless the Supreme Soul Krishna enters. So he says, I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all living beings. This is called Trikalagya, that Krishna knows past, present, and future. Right? Under the influence of false ego in this world, we think that what we're doing is significant, particularly when we're trying to enjoy separately from Krishna, which is what everyone does in the material world. It's called Maya. Maya means you're trying to enjoy separately from Krishna. Now, we get very caught up in that illusion. Maya, by definition, means illusion or that which is not. We take that very seriously. We get very caught up in that. But if we look at it objectively, there's nothing impressive about it. You know, we've just been doing the same thing we've been doing for lifetimes. Where we think, I'm going to do it differently this time. It's exactly the same, right? Sex life. You've had sex as a dog, as a cat, as a pig, as a horse, just, you know, all the species. But in this life, you think, oh, it's so special. Or this time it will satisfy me. Or this time I'll find the partner who will satisfy me. You know, like we have this term soulmate. Well, who's your soulmate? Krishna's your soulmate. That's your soulmate. No one else is going to fully satisfy you. You know, hands up if you've ever found a completely satisfying relationship in this material world. You know, I haven't. I haven't found one relationship that completely satisfies me, except for spiritual relationships. But with Krishna, that will completely satisfy. Krishna is our soulmate. He's a soulmate for everyone. Suridam Sava Bhutanam, Krishna says in the Gita, I am the best friend of every living entity. So Krishna, and we think when we're trying to enjoy in this world, we think it is significant. Oh, you know, I'm enjoying. I can do whatever I want. I'll do it my way. Right? That's like one of the anthems of the modern world. I'll do it I'll go. I will do it. Yeah. But Krishna is Trikalagya. He knows past, present, and future. He knows what you're going to do even before you do it. Right? We're so impressed with ourselves. Oh, you know, I'm just going to do. And sometimes, you know, we get guilty. We get, because we're devotees, but sometimes we fall into Maya. And we know that we're doing the wrong thing, as Krishna and Arjuna discuss in the 3rd chapter of the Gita. Arjuna says, why do I do things? I know it's wrong, but I still do it anyway. And Krishna says that is lust. That is the desire to enjoy separately from it. So in Maya, under the influence of Maya, sometimes we think, you know, we're guilty and we know we're doing the wrong thing, but we think, oh, you know, you almost feel like you're doing it in an undiscovered fashion. You know, we try to hide it from the other devotees, and we try to hide it from even other people. And we kind of, you know, and then even in our minds, we kind of think even Krishna's not kind of, you know, aware. Krishna knows what you're doing even before you do it. You know, Krishna knows in 5 years from now exactly what you're going to do. But even though he knows, because he is Savagya, he is all-knowing, but he just gives you your independence. So actually, if you analyze it, there is nothing impressive about our existence in this material world. But under the influence of Maya, everyone thinks, just like I was speaking today to my mother and my nephew, you'll meet on the weekend. So he's only 21, 22. He just got his own house. You know, brought his first house. He's just brought his first house. it's an exciting thing. Oh, my first house. And it's like everyone kind of, not everyone, but many people, it's like huge achievement. But now it's so expensive to live now. He's moved in, he's got his independence, he's got his own house. Now he's just like, oh my God, this is a struggle. I have to cook my own meals. I have to do my own washing. I have to, I thought the house just cleaned itself. Oh, wait a minute. When we're growing up, sometimes we think everything's on automatic pilot because our parents are doing everything. And we just think, oh, the house just cleans itself. And then we realize when you move out, oh, wait a minute, it's actually someone does this. Right. So now the spirit of enjoyment is there. I get my own house, I'll have my independence, I'll enjoy. But that's not the reality of the material world. Right? Even you see, like, say, Charles, for example, the King of England, the current king. Very interesting karma. He's born in one of the most wealthy and famous families on the planet, but he hasn't been able to enjoy his life fully from the very beginning. Very private person, has to live a public life. Imagine the conflict. Couldn't marry the person he loved, right? Was forced practically to marry someone that he did not love. And then that caused so many problems for him and the public and the other person. Everyone was implicated. Right? So this is the material nature. So we should not be foolish. Krishna tells us in Bhagavad Gita, material enjoyment is limited and temporary. Right? And that's what because the Bhagavad Gita is spoken to the buddhi, as Krishna keeps mentioning in chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna uses the phrase buddhi yoga more than 10 times in chapter 2. Buddhi yoga. Because the Bhagavad Gita is spoken to the intelligence. Because why do we study? Why are we studying Prabhupada's book? Because it makes the intelligence strong. You have to be philosophically fixed up. Then your mind, because your mind will say crazy things to you, right? The mind says crazy things every day. Go and do this, go and do that, go and do that. Like sometimes when I go to the beach or something, there's a cliff and I look over, my mind says jump, right? Because you'll jump and you'll be able to fly. But the intelligence says, hey, don't jump because you're just going to hit the bottom, right? I get that feeling all the time. Maybe I was an eagle in my last life or something. It's like I had that feeling, when I'm on a cliff, I just think, I'll just jump and I'll just glide, but that's improbable. Right? So the intelligence says, hey, wait a minute, let's just relax here. So buddhi yoga means so Bhagavad Gita is spoken to the intelligence to make us spiritually fixed up. And as I often say to devotees, because when you've been a practitioner for a number of years, I've been practicing for a number of years, then you become a counselor to the devotional community. People come to you for guidance. And, so often devotees say, oh, I'm having problems, or this is a struggle, or so many things. And quite often I say to people, are you reading Prabhupada's books? Because I notice, a pattern I've noticed over the years, people who do not read and hear like we're doing now, because this is Shravanam. When you read, that's Shravanam, and when you hear, that's Shravanam, hearing about Krishna. So I've noticed devotees who do not hear and read Prabhupada's books regularly, they have problems with their mind. The best way to deal with your mind is to get philosophically fixed up, right? And then the mind won't give you as many problems when the intelligence is strong. So Krishna here is speaking about the super soul. Right? That's the most powerful opulence that Krishna has. I mean, he's everywhere. And he's all-knowing. Right? He's omniscient. He's omnipotent. Right? He's Sarvagya. Okay. Text number 21. Of the Adityas, I am Vishnu. Of lights, I am the radiant sun. Of the Maruts, I am Marichi. And among the stars, I am the moon. So there's a famous verse, or quite a well-known verse. Srila Prabhupada says, Krishna first informs us, actually not 21, sorry. Prabhupada says, the sun is the glowing eye of the Supreme Lord. This is described in Brahma Samhita. It's described in different places that the sun is like the eye. Actually, it says the sun and the moon. It's like the eye of the Lord. Because without light, we cannot see. There's no sun, we can't see. Right? Everything is pitch black. Like that little ditch just next to where you're staying down there. I fell in that one night. Because it gets so black here, something you can't even see your hand in front of your face. I remember walking across one time and just falling in. So, without the sun, we can't see. So it's the eye of the Lord. It gives vision. Light from the sun gives vision. It is an opulence. The sun is an opulence because without sun, there is no life. If the sun it's millions of miles away. I can't remember how many millions, but it's a long way away. If it was another million miles away, we would be freezing right now. And if it was too close, we might be unbearably hot right now. Right? So Krishna just puts it right at the right place and sets up the earth right at the right distance, just so everything functions nicely. So without the sun's energy, we do not exist, because the sun influences everything on this planet. It gives us warmth so that we can feel comfortable. I feel quite comfortable now. It gives us energy. When you're in the sun at the right time of day, it gives energy. It gives energy to the food, right? Food grows from the energy of the sun. It evaporates the oceans so that clouds form and then rain drops onto our food. So, without the sun, we don't exist. That's one of Krishna's opulences. And then it says, among the stars, I am the moon. Right? So the light of the moon is equally important. We know from the Vedas that the light of the moon, Prabhupada explains, it creates the rasa, or the juice within the vegetables. We get juice from the vegetables because of the light of the moon. And it's interesting, in many of the ancient cultures, they planned according to the moon cycle. Right? We know, like the Celtics and these different ancient cultures, there's a whole moon calendar. I know people, I have friends who still follow this system. They plan according to the moon cycle. Certain vegetables grow better when they're planted on full moon or dark moon, and the moon's energy, Prabhupada explains, the light of the moon goes into the vegetables and that gives us nourishment. So we're dependent on these two planets. Right? And the moon governs the mind. Right? People who have a disturbed mind, when we look at the Jyotish, or the chart at the time they are born, right, we'll see that is influenced by the position of the moon at the time of birth. Right? Wherever the moon is, that will affect your mind at the time of birth. Some people just have disturbed minds. Their minds are never peaceful. I know a number of people like that. They're just always anxious in the mind. Right? So the moon, that is the moon affecting the mind. And other people, at the time of birth, the moon was well situated and their minds are just very peaceful and very steady. Like Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada had an exalted moon, which means his moon was just very peaceful. Krishna actually has an exalted moon. when he appears, the moon is situated in such a way. I mean, Krishna controls the moon, not vice versa, but it shows that Krishna's mind is also very steady. Text number 22. Of the Vedas, I am the Samaveda. Of the demigods, I am Indra, the king of heaven. Of the senses, I am the mind. And in living beings, I am the living force or consciousness. So Prabhupada says in the purport, matter has no consciousness like the living entity. Therefore, this consciousness is supreme and eternal. Consciousness cannot be produced by a combination of matter. So, in living beings, I am the living force, consciousness. Consciousness means it's the symptom of the soul or life. What is the symptom of the sun? The sun's symptoms are heat and light, right? The sun gives heat, the sun gives life. They are the symptoms which make us understand that the sun is there. So how do we know that the soul is present somewhere? By its symptom, which is consciousness. Just like this couch does not have a soul in it, so there's no consciousness. But then if you just go out there, the plants, they have life or consciousness, and therefore we know the soul is present. Right? So soul, the symptom is consciousness, and that is how we know where the soul is present. And then in this verse, it is said, of the senses, I am the mind. The mind, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the mind is the sixth sense. Because actually we enjoy the other five senses, the knowledge acquiring senses, we enjoy them through the mind. When you taste something, it's your mind that's enjoying it. I mean, your tongue enjoys it, but it's the mind. The mind's going, that's delicious. Tastes so good. Or we see something, but we enjoy it in the mind. So the mind is like the king of the senses. That's why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, you have to learn to control your mind, but you have to make your intelligence strong so that you can control your mind. Otherwise, we see in this world, people have uncontrolled minds and they're trying to enjoy separate from Krishna and they are suffering. Right? We see everyone suffering in this world. Why are people suffering? Because their minds are not under control and they're not being used in Krishna's service. If you don't think of Krishna, you will suffer in this world. So we have to learn to control the mind. Otherwise, you will suffer in this world. Text number 23. Of all the Rudras, I am Lord Shiva. Of the Yakshas and Rakshasas, I am the Lord of Wealth, Kuvera. Of the Vasus, I am Fire, Agni, and of mountains, I am Meru. Did you see that Nrsimhadev movie? You did see it, yeah. This animated movie, AI movie, came out recently about Lord Nrsimhadev. And in the final scenes, you actually see Mount Meru. Mount Meru is it's a huge mountain. It's in the middle of the universe. It's like a huge mountain that goes in the middle of the universe. It's also said to be what we call the Milky Way. All those stars kind of going through the sky. That's also Mount Meru, or it's also the lotus stem coming from the navel of Garbhodakshay Vishnu. These are technical points, but there's a mountain basically in the middle of the universe, which runs from the bottom to the top of the universe practically. And then it says, of Rudras, I am Lord Shiva. Prabhupada says in the purport, Lord Shiva is the incarnation of the Supreme Lord in charge of ignorance. Meru is a mountain famed for its rich natural resources. So Lord Shiva is a very interesting personality. It says in Bhagavatam, Vaishnavanam yata Shambhu. He is the greatest devotee in this world. Not in the spiritual world, but in this world, he is considered to be the topmost devotee. Lord Shiva is a very interesting personality. He is almost as powerful as Krishna, not quite, almost as powerful, but he's much more powerful than us, the living entities. Therefore, he's called Mahadev, or the greatest of the gods. And Lord Shiva, he is the master of Ahankara, which means the false ego. And false ego is what binds us to this world. Right? We're all bound by false ego. Right? The ego, when you identify with the ego, then you're bound in this world. It is something you are not. So Lord Shiva is the Lord of that. And as devotees, because sometimes devotees how do we relate to Lord Shiva? We pray to Lord Shiva as the Lord of the false ego to release us from this material world. Because it's our false ego that keeps us bound in this material world. So therefore, you have to pray to Lord Shiva to gain release from this material. That is Lord Shiva's position. Text 24. O priests, O Arjuna, of priests, O Arjuna, know me to be the chief, Brihaspati. Of generals, I am Kartikeya, and of bodies of water, I am the ocean. Oh. So you can feel Krishna's presence in the ocean. Have you ever been caught in the ocean? Caught where you almost, got worried? It's happened to me 2-3 times in my life. You get into a situation where you're just a little bit stuck, or a lot stuck, and then you realize your mortality and your insignificance, and you realize the greatness of the ocean, that body of water, which is said to be in the navel of the Lord, of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So Krishna says, of bodies of water, I am the ocean. When we fly to India, we look out the window of the plane, and all you can see is water. And I've been on the Spirit of Tasmania, going across to Tasmania, and you get out to a point, and all you can see is water. And that's when you understand the greatness of the ocean. Because if you fall off the boat, that's it. The hope of swimming back to Victoria or to Tasmania is slim. So then you get an understanding of the potency. So Krishna says, of bodies of water, I am the ocean. Of priests, I am Brihaspati. Brihaspati is the guru of the demigods. He is extremely wise, Brihaspati. And then there is Kartikeya. Kartikeya is, they said, of generals, I am Kartikeya. Kartikeya is the commander-in-chief of the demigods. He's the son of Lord Shiva and Parvati. Right? He's the greatest warrior. And actually, where does he live? We call the planet Mars. Mars is we call it the war planet. Even to this day, they say it's the war planet. Right? In all the ancient traditions in the world, it's known as being the war planet. And that is the planet of Kartikeya. And even when you look at Mars, it's up there in the sky. It flashes red. It's got like this reddish kind of flashing every few seconds. It's like flashing. That's Kartikeya. Yeah, that's his planet. He's the commander-in-chief of the demigods. It's like this energy coming from him. Of great sages, I am Brigu. Of vibrations, I am the transcendental Om. Of sacrifices, I am the chanting of the holy names, Japa. And of immovable things, I am the Himalayas. Prabhupada says in the purport, of all transcendental vibrations, Omkara represents Krishna. Of all sacrifices, the chanting of Hare Krishna is the purest representation of Krishna. Sometimes animal sacrifices are recommended, but in the sacrifice of Hare Krishna, there is no question of violence. It is the simplest and purest. Whatever is sublime in the worlds is a representation of Krishna. So it says that Om is the sound vibration of Krishna. That sound is the vibration which represents God. NASA did a study of the sun a number of years ago, and they found that the sound which comes from the sun is actually Om. That's what was recorded. So it is like the primordial sound of the universe, of creation. Now this Om represents Krishna. And of immovable things, I am the Himalaya. If you've ever seen the Himalaya, I haven't been to them, but I've flown past them. And when you're flying past them, like the plane's at about 30,000 feet, somewhere up there. And you look out and the Himalayas are right there. And then it's another way you understand God's power, like a mountain range, which is just right in front of you. So the Himalaya, Krishna says, of immovable things, I am the Himalaya. And then he says of sacrifices, the greatest sacrifice is chanting the holy names, or japa. Right? That is the greatest sacrifice, or the most potent way to connect to and to please God. Unlimitedly potent. Of all trees, I am the banyan tree, and of the sages amongst the demigods, I am Narada. Of the Gandharvas, I am Chitrarata, and among perfect beings, I am the sage Kapila. So, the banyan tree, you see them, they go into the ground, the roots come from the branches, and they go into the ground, then they come up again and form another tree, and then it goes. I've heard in Calcutta there's a banyan tree which is like something like a square kilometer, something like that, like goes up and down, up and down. I've never seen one like that. I've seen many in India, but I've never seen one that just goes on and on and on, but apparently they exist, right? Among the demigods, sages, among the demigods, I am Narada. If you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada is the guru of many of the great personalities in the Bhagavatam. Dhruva Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Yudhishthira Maharaj. He's so many great personalities. So this shows Narada's extraordinary position. And then of perfected beings, I am Kapila. So Kapila Dev speaks in the third canto of the Bhagavatam, Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya Yoga means deeply philosophical knowledge. This is spoken by Lord Kapila Dev in Canto 3. Extremely powerful teachings. Text 27. Of horses know me to be Uchchai Shrava, produced during the churning of the ocean for nectar. Of lordly elephants, I am Airavata, and among men, I am the monarch. So Prabhupada says, the king is the representative of Krishna because Krishna is the maintainer of the universe, and the kings who are appointed on account of their godly qualifications are maintainers of their kingdoms. The kings always think of their citizens' welfare. In this age, with the corruption of religious principles, monarchy decayed and is now finally abolished. In the past, however, people were more happy under righteous kings. So it's interesting because we've all been disappointed by monarchy, not so much in our life, but in previous centuries. And people have rejected the system. But actually, it's the most natural and attractive system for humanity. Just like a couple of years ago, or a number of years ago, you had the royal wedding between, what are they called? Harry and Meghan. Yeah, Harry and Meghan. So how many people on Earth? 8 billion. How many people watched the wedding? 1.5 billion. Why are they watching it? If people aren't interested in monarchy, why do they all watch it? Because everyone wants monarchy. The problem is we have our monarchy, or our kings, our leaders, are no longer benefic. They're no longer qualified. But it's natural. Everyone's a king. We don't want a prime minister we don't feel inspired by. You might feel, there might be someone you can think of in the world, some leader you feel inspired by. But people are becoming less and less inspired by their leaders. So people want benefic kings. It's natural to want a leader who will benefit the citizens, right? But it's hard to find in this day and age. But that's the natural system. So Krishna is emphasizing here. He says, of men, I am the king. Of horses, I to be known as Uchchaishrava, produced during the churning of the ocean of nectar. They churned the ocean, and Airavata came out of there as well. The best of the elephants. The elephant is very auspicious. The horse is auspicious. The cow is auspicious. Certain animals are considered very auspicious. When they churned the ocean of milk millions of years ago, then these very auspicious beings came from the churning of the ocean at that time. Of weapons, I am the thunderbolt. Among cows, I am the surabhi. Of causes for procreation, I am Kandapa, the god of love. And of serpents, I am Vasuki. The Vasuki they used to churn the Mount Meru when they were churning the ocean of milk. So, we can't even imagine how large and powerful Vasuki is. Like here on our farm, we see snakes. They're just waking up now, actually. I only see about 3 or 4 in a year. You don't see many of them, but they're terrifying. When you see one, you jump. You're like, oh, snake, like that. So, they've got a Shakti in them, like a potency in them. So imagine Vasuki, like he's probably kilometers long. If you saw a snake like that coming out of the forest, it'd be terror personified. Prabhupada says in the purport, in Krishna Loka, there are cows which can be milked at any time, and they give as much milk as one likes. Kandapa is the sex desire for presenting good sons. Therefore, Kandapa is the representation of Krishna. Sometimes sex is engaged in only for sense gratification. Such sex does not I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. Right? That is Krishna. When sex is for procreation, Krishna is present. And he says of weapons, I'm the thunderbolt. Sometimes you see, now because of the internet, you see people get hit by thunderbolts. Everyone's gone. Well, people turn black. They can die by being hit by the thunderbolt. Of cows, I'm the Surbi. Surbi means like the cows in the heavenly planets, and they can give like unlimited milk, so to speak. Of the many-hooded Nagas, I am Ananta, and among the aquatics, I am the demigod Varuna. Of departed ancestors, I am Aryama, and among the dispensers of law, I am Yama, the Lord of Death. So Yama, he lives on Pluto, the planet we call Pluto, which is south in the universe. That's what we call Yamaloka. For people who are impious, they're taken there after their death, and then they get judged, and then they get punished, and then they come back into another body. We don't have to worry about that. If we keep serving Krishna, we don't have to worry about meeting Yamaraj, going to Pluto and meeting him. Text number 30. Among the Daicha demons, I am the devoted Prahlad. Among subduers, I am time. Among beasts, I am the lion. And among birds, I am Garuda. If you've ever seen a lion up close, same thing, they're terrifying. Even when they're on the other side of the fence, you can just feel their presence, so powerful. And among subduers, I am time. It doesn't matter how powerful you are in this world. Some people become very powerful in this world. Time will take everything, right? Takes everything. So it says in Bhagavatam in 2nd canto, in your life, you should bow down to Krishna voluntarily during your life, because if you don't, at the end of your life, you'll be forced to bow down. Time will just make you offer obeisances. It's called death. It's better to bow down voluntarily. Otherwise, at the end, it's just forced. Of purifiers, I am the wind. Of the wielders of weapons, I am Ram. Of fishes, I am the shark. And of flowing rivers, I am the Ganges. When you see the Ganges, you get an understanding of a river. In Australia, we don't have rivers like that. It's so vast and powerful. Of fishes, I am the shark. Manigriva and myself, we went to the beach probably about 10 years ago, down near Lawn, Cathedral Rock, and we're swimming. Mani was a bit further out than me, and the big wave kind of came in. He was body surfing, and then just behind him in the wave, this big dark shadow just went through them. And Mani just screamed, "Shark!" and just started swimming. And I turned and swam. It turned out it was like a walrus seal, big, like as big as the couch, big. But when you just see the shadow. So once again, it's a way of seeing Krishna. If you're in there and you get an idea of Krishna's potency, sharks are terrifying. Yeah. Of all creations, I am the beginning and the end and also the middle, O Arjuna. Of all sciences, I am the spiritual science of the self, and among logicians, I am the conclusive truth. So, of all sciences, the spiritual science is the topmost. In other words, the Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada said this. He said, where is the department in the university where they teach Bhagavad Gita? Where's the spiritual side? You go to university to study, aardvark stool or something. People study the most bizarre things. Get a thesis or a doctorate or a master's in all sorts of things. So Krishna says, of all the sciences, the one we should be learning or spending most of our time on is understanding the self, the spiritual science. Of letters, I am the letter A, and among compound words, I am the dual compound. I am also inexhaustible time, and of creators, I am Brahma. I am all devouring death, and I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. It's a nice verse about the qualities of women. Fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. Interesting. Early in the Gita, Prabhupada says in chapter 1, women are less intelligent. Here, Krishna says they are intelligent. It's one of their common traits. Different type of intelligence to men. Right? Although in Kali Yuga, there's not a lot of difference, really. It's not like there's vast difference between men and women, but different type of intelligence. Women can use both sides of the brain simultaneously. So in other words, they're much better. They're known for being better than men at multitasking. Can do several things. So men tend to be less able at multitasking like a woman can. And a man uses one side of the brain only at one time. In other words, a man will be emotional, sentimental, or rational, but not usually at the same time, whereas women are kind of mixed. They're rational and intellectual, but also their emotions sway them much more. Men and women are equal, but to say that they're the same is not true. They're not like that. The equality is not like that. Right? Where men and women are equal, but they're different machines. It's like saying a Ferrari and a VW are the same or something. They're not. One does one thing, one does the other thing. So women think and work in one way, men think and work generally, or this is general, but in a different way. So Krishna is saying here all the famous qualities of women that they're known for. Of the hymns of the Samaveda, I am the Brihat Sama. And of poetry, I am Gayatri. Of months, I am Margashirsha, November, December. And of seasons, I am flower-bearing spring. I am the gambling of cheats and the splendid, and of the splendid, I am the splendor. I am victory, I am adventure, and I am the strength of the strong. So Krishna says of gamblings, of gambling, I am the gambling of cheats. In other words, what he's saying, because people in this world, they like to cheat. It's like a bad habit. Quarrel and hypocrisy is the nature of this age. So people like to cheat. Krishna is the best cheat. That's what he's saying. Sometimes we try to cheat Krishna, and then Krishna, it's happened to all of us. We try to cheat Krishna. Krishna just says, I'll show you. You try to sneak off from me, and I will. You try to cheat me by leaving, I will make your life miserable. I'll cheat you, and then you have to come back. As we said the other day, either do it the easy way or the hard way, but either way, you're going to come back to Krishna. You've already signed the contract. You've already signed the contract. I signed it years ago, so even if I think I want to go away, when you sign a contract with Krishna, that's it. He will bring you back. Right? So you're better off just cooperating with him. Otherwise, he's just going to go. He's going to grab you anyway. Of the descendants of Vrishni, I am Vasudev. And of the Pandavas, I am Arjuna. Of the sages, I am Vyas. And among great thinkers, I am Ushana. Among all means for suppressing lawlessness, I am punishment. And of those who seek victory, I am morality. Of secret things, I am silence. And of the wise, I am the wisdom. Furthermore, O Arjuna, I am the generating seed of all existences. There is no being, moving or non-moving, that can exist without me. O mighty conqueror of enemies, there is no end to my divine manifestations. What I have spoken to you is but a mere indication of my infinite opulence. Know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. So Krishna is teaching us that the most wonderful and powerful things we see in this world, that's just like an insignificant part of his energy or his creation. But what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. So Krishna is saying, I am the all-powerful entity. And when we realize that ourselves, when we realize Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, our lives become satisfied. When we accept Krishna as he is and we accept ourselves as we are, and then we worship him to the best of our ability, then we become satisfied. So I'll stop there. Any questions, any comments on what we discussed? So we won't have a class next week. I'll be away, so I'll have a week off, and then the week after we'll continue. Thank you for coming. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hi. Thank you, Prabhu. Happy birthday.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.